and Facebook. Welcome, everybody. I'm Viata, your host for tonight on YouTube, Viata's Tiny House Village. Welcome. I'm back. I've been away for a while, but got a great show for you tonight on YouTube and Facebook Live. So buckle up. We've got a lot to talk about. This is part two of the spirit of Cleopatra. We're going to go deep tonight. And this is for mature audiences only because some people just can't handle the truth. You know what I mean? About the spirit and the soul. So I'm going to play my introduction, which I haven't played in a while, and hang in there. Okay, let's hang in there. Share screen. Got to do this right. We are in Viata's Tiny House Village. Here we go. All right. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed those pictures from my tiny house village. That represents a 7-8 year journey to dwell in a very small space. Currently, I'm in 320 square feet of space. I love it, love it, love it. after being in 3,000 square foot as a married woman with 2 children. I'm now a single woman with a beautiful partner in my life, and I'm joyfully gratitude everywhere, everywhere. So this is Blog Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and YouTube University today. So I'm going to manage all three of these. And a man who suggested or motivated me or kept suggesting I start a YouTube channel is joining me tonight. Volban Schwartzwald, aka LA Davis, is going to join me tonight to talk about a documentary that we watched, and we just really enjoyed the documentary, and now it has exploded in controversy. So we're going to talk about that, and especially talk about the true spirit of Cleopatra, which maybe a lot of you don't know. Now, I talked about this spirit of Cleopatra several weeks ago on my Blog Talk show, when I reviewed a book by a man by the name of Jonathan Cahn, The Return of the Gods. And we're looking at today in this global controversy about a docudrama, you could call it. We're looking at today that spirit in action. But more importantly, we're looking at third dimensional activity. And as a conscious individual, my goal is to get us into fourth dimension, fifth dimension, where there's peace. You say, well, what's the difference? Third dimension is where you have men and women at war. Okay. That was Cleopatra. Okay. The whole story of Cleopatra, all the way from Cleopatra 1 to Cleopatra 7, men and women at war, incest, having babies, war, killing, murdering, all of that, third dimension. So we have a beautiful example in our society right now, in fact, on planet Earth, of third dimension activity in the media every day. People are using only their five senses to be critical, judgmental, to be discerning, and even to attempt to be at peace with in their lives. But tonight we're going to go especially into the spirit of Cleopatra because it's a fascinating character. And many of you may not even know the history of this person. So we're going to get into that. But first, I want to play for you what this controversy has developed into. I came across a video, and this is, I do not own the rights to this video. It's titled, Young Egyptians Launch a Viral Challenge. The big debate and protest is from Egyptians who are now in the Arab Republic of Egypt. That's where this controversy has originated. People in the Arab Republic of Egypt do not like the docudrama Queen Cleopatra that Netflix recently presented to the world, and many people are very upset. Why are they upset? Well, I'm going to start with this so-called viral video where young Egyptians launch a viral challenge. And the thing to pay attention to is the energy that is being put out by men and women about a creative work of one person that they don't agree with. And so there's a lot of energy that has been put out about a creative work by one or two or three individuals. And we're going to go into that tonight. So that why should we even talk about this? Well, we're all trying to get to the fourth dimension where there's peace and love and harmony. And right now we are full-fledged into third dimension, men and women at war. Okay. The media presents at every opportunity, the media presents men and women at war, controversy, conflict, debate, all of that. And our intention tonight is to help you, the viewing, listening audience, to work for peace in our society. And the only way you're going to do that, I believe, is to be discerning and observant about those who are still in the third dimension, and then going in the other direction to present harmony, peace, love in the fourth and fifth dimension. So I want to show you where this debate is at the current time. It could change because I understand there is a lawsuit coming out from Egypt, from the Arab Republic of Egypt. And we're going to go into a lot of the history of that country. You know, Africa is a continent, Egypt is a country, along with many other countries and locations in the northern part of Africa, the continent. Then you have the Middle East and Mesopotamia in the ancient thought, and we want to explore all that to understand, overstand, even understand what is going on the spiritual level. This is mature audiences only. Everybody's not going to grasp this message of spirit and soul energy. We're all living in a vessel, our souls living in this vessel, you know, but everybody doesn't believe that. They think it's all flesh, all physical, and everything but that they see is reality, and anything invisible is maybe not reality. Okay, well, let's listen to the current controversy, and my co-host will be joining me shortly to go into a breakdown of this docudrama and why it is in, why we're debating on all on the third dimensional level. We're going to answer why there's a debate, but then we have to go to the fourth dimension, fifth dimension, invisible reality, to look at the spiritual influence in this whole global conflict. So let's get into, let me bring up the young Egyptians. I love this generation, this younger generation. They are teaching us a lot. One of the things they're teaching us is how brainwashed they are. Because with some of the things that these young people are saying make no sense at all to me. And we want to have compassion, and we want to be better listeners when we hear like this going on. Because if we don't listen, we're not going to understand how this conversation should move forward. We want this conversation to move forward, right? So let's look at and listen to a viral video or a YouTube presentation by young people in young Egyptians who are presenting a challenge. We want to know, what is the challenge? Okay, so here we go.
The new Netflix series about Cleopatra caused controversy as it features a Black actress playing the lead role, which some view as historically inaccurate and racist. The series is also being marketed as a documentary, which is being criticized as misleading since a documentary is defined as a form of media that uses official records and sources, and this portrayal of Cleopatra goes against the historical evidence that she was of Macedonian Greek ethnicity.
Remember my grandmother saying to me, I don't care what they tell you in school, Cleopatra was Black.
In response to this controversy, young Egyptians have launched a viral campaign with the hashtag Egypt for Egyptians. The campaign involves sharing photos online, with half of the picture featuring their own face, and the other half showing the face of either a king or queen from ancient Egypt. The aim of the campaign is to highlight the similarities between modern-day Egyptians and their ancient ancestors. Also, the reaction of the Black community to the documentary was negative.
Just make a movie about a Black person. If you want to cast a Black actress in it, find a historical Black woman, make the biopic about her, and then hire a Black actress to do it. Don't go, okay, well, let's take Cleopatra and then just switch her out for a Black person because, you couldn't possibly think of another Black person to make a movie about? I don't understand.
The producer of Queen Cleopatra, Jada Pinkett Smith, initiated the African Queen series to enlighten people about the renowned queens of Africa. As the mother of a young Black woman, it is important to me that she learns the lessons of the African queens who paved the way for the success of generations of Black women. The dispute regarding this matter originates from the Afrocentric movement, which posits that the leaders and inhabitants of ancient Egypt were Black and subsequently displaced by European and Arab occupants. Many memes have appeared online mocking Netflix for making white historical figures Black.
The internet, Muhammad Ali, Snow White, Queen Elizabeth II. Y'all are so immature. Polar bear. Leave the animals out of this, please. Martin Luther King. What? The man who stood against the nation. Get out of here. Obama. Come on.
So as you can see, everyone, not everyone, there are so many people making videos on this subject. Some of them make no sense at all to me. Some of them have a legitimate position to take. Some of them are actually bringing critical thinking. And then you have just comedy all over. But why is this serious? I want to say we're being divided once again. We're being divided, first of all, from the Arab Republic of Egypt, who's very unhappy about the docudrama presented by Jada Pinkett. So I'm gonna my co-host tonight is L.A. Davis. L.A. and I have been on a mission to educate people about minimalism and tiny house living. Good evening, LA. How are you?
I'm better than terrific. How are you?
It's so nice to see you again. We're back on YouTube Live. Hello, hallelujah. Woo, YouTube Live. So LA and I are in harmony about changing the way people live their lives, and especially the way they think. Because LA also does Blog Talk Radio 5 days a week or 7 days a week. 5 days? What are you doing?
5.
5 days a week.
5.
So I do Blog Talk 2 days a week. LA is 5 days a week, and it's solar. What is it? It started out as It's My House, right?
Well, yeah, it's my house, which is I guess an online marketing tool, and then the a new updated name. We haven't killed. Matter of fact, the audience, but it's also DIY housing TV. That would be the visual part of It's My House. Be, build simple house without bank debt and using social capital.
Okay, so you're kind of coming in and out on your voice. I don't know if you can adjust anything, but I'm going to give you a little time to adjust that. And then I'm going to, LA and I both are frequent Netflix watchers, right? I would say
Yep.
that's probably our main source of entertainment. Would you say?
Well, one of them.
One of them, yes. Yeah. It's funny. I have to tell this joke. Elon Musk tweeted out how many gigabytes or whatever that Twitter was using, 9,000 or something like that. Does that sound right? But he said he had right above his tweet or the list of energy that Twitter uses, right above it was some porn spot that used 11,000. So it was kind of a sarcastic tweet about people saying, well, Twitter uses so much, but look how much porn uses. So everything's relative, right? Everything's relative. So LA and I both watch Netflix, and we both watch the docudrama Queen Cleopatra. And we want to just give you our perspective, our insight as two Americans. I'm not using the B word tonight because it's been totally overused. You can look at LA skin, my skin. I have cosmic curls. I don't think he has any curls, but you can tell that we have melanin in our blood. I'm not using the B word tonight. I refuse. It's been overused in this drama and debate. So LA and I are Americans. Let's just say we're both Americans, dark skin, lighter skin, cosmic curls. We both watched the docudrama Queen Cleopatra. Now, my perspective, my viewpoint, my critique was I loved it because number one, I don't know if you looked at it and wrote down the number of narrators. Were you able to?
I watched it, but I didn't write down a specific. I wasn't.
Okay,
I
I
took note of narrators, but I didn't take note how many.
okay. This is why, as a college graduate and a grandmother, mother of two, we're both baby boomers. So, of course, our perspective is going, as Americans, our perspective is going to be a little different, right? But I enjoyed it because I learned so much about the history of that region. How did I learn about the history of the region? 6 narrators, and I want to just give you their credentials. So, because that's what's so kind of crazy to me about this whole debate. There were 6 people of different races narrating this docudrama. The credentials were as follows: author of Cleopatra and Egypt, Dr. Sally Ann Ashton; Egyptologist, Dr. Colleen Darnell; Dr. Islam Isa, author of Alexandria, the City That Changed the World; Deborah Hurd, PhD candidate, Nubian Archaeology and Egyptian Studies; Professor Shelley Haley, author of many books on the subject, classics at Hamilton College; and finally, Associate Professor Jacqueline Williamson, Art and Archaeology of the Ancient Mediterranean. Now, those credentials to me, as I watched and thought, oh, okay, well, these people are probably telling the truth. They've done some research. They know their work. They know the study. They know the topic. So I enjoyed the learning about history. The acting was so. There wasn't a lot of dialogue, in my opinion, that was deep or thought provoking. But I loved learning about the area and the region of Cleopatra the Seventh. And one thing we've learned since then is that there were 7 Cleopatras over a 300-year period. The 7th Cleopatra, they kept very good detail about the ancestry, except nobody knows who her mother and grandmother are. Leaving some doubt about her ancestry, gene and melanin content of her skin. So we're still debating, though, because of the color of her skin, using the B word. So, LA, what did you think about the docudrama you watched on Netflix, Queen Cleopatra?
Well, it as compared to Hollywood's version, which you have Claudette Colbert and Elizabeth Taylor. So Jada Pinkett, who bankrolled the film, essentially, it gave, in my opinion, gave her Western version of Cleopatra, the 7th. And now, with that said, I think the only the reason why in my opinion, the reason why Cleopatra the 7th is on the radar, as far as, I mean, she was the last pharaoh of Egypt. But my opinion, the reason why she's on the radar, as opposed to other African queens, because we have there are 3 African queens that are living right now, but I doubt most people can even name any one of the 3. It's because of, just my opinion, interculturally, here was an African pharaoh or African queen who was doing politically doing things with Europeans, because there are other African queens that didn't have any contact or any action or interaction at the level of Cleopatra the 7th. So that's just my opinion.
Well, Jada's other queen documentary or video, the one that came first, Nyinga, I can't pronounce her name. She had a lot of interaction with the Portuguese. Did you see
Mm-hmm.
that first one she
No,
did?
I did not see that one.
Okay, that one's really interesting. There were no narrators in her first one, which and it was excellent because I didn't know anything about this queen, and nobody protested because it wasn't from Egypt. But she had tons of interaction with the Portuguese slave traders. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, in the end of that documentary or that movie, she became a Christian because of the Pope's pressure, influence. And then she began to cooperate with the slave trade Portuguese men because of her position as queen, wanting to maintain her power. So that was a very quite a different
Well,
story.
I'll have to watch that one. Matter of fact, I'll watch the whole Queen series because now the good thing about Jada Pinkett on this whole thing is she is getting visualizing, bringing forward information that we normally wouldn't have gotten from a Western point of view.
Yes, and from maybe Western educators,
Right.
because the six narrators of this docudrama probably are Americans, but they've all studied Egypt. Now, let me at this point bring in the transition over the past thousands of years in that land called Egypt. And the problem that many of the Egyptians have is that they don't want this area to be called Africa. So I think part of the debate is they don't really consider themselves part Africans, but they're Egyptians. And so when we look at Queen Cleopatra, they don't like to think of her as an African, but she's an Egyptian with Greek ancestry. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if we look at the history of that land, let's go back to biblical times. The first name for that I'm aware of, and I think maybe the Egyptians would agree, I don't know at this point, but my knowledge of biblical Egypt was called Mitzrayim. Okay, you could break that word down and get the meaning of it, but basically it's a Hebrew word that had a lot to do with the land and the people, the Hebrew people, okay, and the Egyptian people, the pharaohs, all that mixture in there. Because Moses, the story of Moses was supposedly an Egyptian, right? And
He
no,
was
Moses
adopted
wasn't an
by
Egyptian. He was
Egyptians.
adopted. He was adopted. He
He
became
adopted.
okay. He became an Egyptian. He was adopted, right?
Right.
Because of the pharaoh's daughter, right?
Sister, I think.
Sister, daughter, or sister. So when we go back to the beginning, I want to go back to the beginning for a minute because this is where people have lost their minds about what it means coming forward today and saying, well, this isn't Africa and it's not the same dark skinned people and the culture is different and all that. But Cleopatra was this, and this, and she's not that. So Mitzrayim was biblical Egypt. We had a lot of stories told about Moses and the Israelites coming out of Mitzrayim, right? So fast forward, Mitzrayim became Kemet, right? If you know your history of that region, from Mitzrayim to Kemet, okay? Kemet, what does Kemet mean? Black land. I use that word now because that's what it means. A definition of Kemet or Kemet, Kemet, from Mitzrayim to Kemet, black land. Okay, Kemet. So we're talking, within the period of time where the Ptolemy and the whole dynasty began to develop and conquering Egypt. Alexander the Great came in. This was called Kemet. But then slowly the Egypt name came in because of what? The conquerors and their language and their influence and their culture. So they started calling it Egypt, which has a different meaning than Kemet, which is black land. So you can see why we're having this debate, because there has always been these conquerors coming in and wanting to change the name of the land from Mitzrayim, Kemet, and now Egypt. And now today, modern day Egypt is called Arab Republic of Egypt, with a heavy influence of Muslim religion and people from other lands originally. Would you agree or not?
Yeah. Sounds about right.
So what we want to do, LA and I are going to do after the commercials. We've got let's see. Let me see. Comment. Good evening. Great conversation. Naima Latif, our executive producer, says, good evening, great. I did a lot of study of Queen Nzinga. Thank you, Naima, that I couldn't remember her name. She stood up to the Portuguese like the character in the recent movie, The Woman King. So we have, people are saying, well, why don't you just talk about another dark-skinned queen? Well, she did. Her first, I think this is the first series by Jada Pinkett, the Nzinga Queen of Africa. And then she moved into Cleopatra. But the big controversy is, people don't think Egypt is really part of Africa. So that's where we're going to get into some more energy that's coming out of that land right now that has to do more with pride and the Venus spirit, goddess spirit, Venus and Ishtar spirits that Cleopatra represented. We're going to go to a commercial now, but we'll be back. Don't miss it. Call your friends. We want to bring some harmony and peace to this issue and move forward into the fourth and fifth dimension, which is where there is peace and harmony, and out of the war between men and women that is currently taking place on a global scale. So Naima Latif is going to play our next group of commercials, and we'll be right back after these messages.
We have an opportunity to transform the whole global society in the next 50 years. 50 years from now, the earth will be populated by a new generation of adults, many of whom are yet unborn. Our mission is to nurture them in childhood with love, guidance, and protection, and to raise them in healthy, happy families. If we impart values of compassion, generosity, and respect for fellow human beings in the next generation of children, they will create a world where people can live together in peace. This is our goal. Be a part of the transformation. Get your copy of the book, The Female Solution. Go to www.naimalatif.com. That's www.naimalatif.com.
Do you want to live in a world without war? Join our global peace movement. Heavenly Culture World Peace Restoration of Light transcends culture, religion, ideology, and other boundaries to achieve peaceful harmony in the global society. HWPL is committed to bringing world peace and cessation of war through peaceful dialogue between religious groups. I am Director Shin-Suk Kim of the HWPL Chicago branch of North America. Join us for our next gathering. Call 773-580-1501 and be a part of the movement for world peace. Email us at chicagohwpl@gmail.com. I'm Beata, your holistic life coach. These days, it's more important than ever to work on your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Are you consciously breathing deeply in stressful moments? Do you have a plan or daily routine to maintain balance in your awesome body? Are you struggling to be disciplined in your eating habits? When you partner with me, I'll help you develop a personalized health plan that works for your particular lifestyle. You can find out more about me at yourholisticlifecoach.com, where you can also review my 3-step protocol to guide you to abundant health. That's yourholisticlifecoach.com, and I'm Beate.
And we're back. Thank you for joining me. I'm on YouTube tonight. YouTube, hey, YouTube family. I'm back. Thank you for joining me. And I hope you'll share this with other friends, family, and Egyptians especially, so we can have peace. We're being used right now to bring more division and more hatred amongst the human population. I don't know who started this debate in Egypt, but we're at a point of realizing we're being used. We're pawns in this game when we have to debate about the color of people's skin and whether it's a true representation of Cleopatra the Seventh, whose mother and grandmother are unknown. Who was the concubines in the day? People are saying that, well, there was a pure Greek lineage from Cleopatra the First to the Ptolemies, had a very pure bloodline. Come on now. Nobody's had pure bloodlines for ages. And so this is the debate we're having, though. And so it reminds me of the movie The Gladiators. Did you see The Gladiators, LA?
No, I did not.
I didn't either. But I kept hearing this line about, are you not entertained? And there's actually a scene from the Gladiator movie, and we have a caller in the blog Female Solution studio, and I'm going to come back to you as soon as I play this scene, because it so represents the spirit of Cleopatra in war and confusion and sex and love and all that. Because this is a scene where I think it's Russell Crowe. He's famous for this scene in the Gladiators, where he asks the question that we can ask today about any type of movie or docudrama that's put out. And I just want to play. It's only about a couple of minutes to hear the energy. I'm trying to help you understand the energy. Let's see. Do I have it here? Yes. Yes. Are you entertained? Here's a scene, the sounds of the movie The Gladiators that brings to mind the battle we're in today, war between men and women. you not entertained? After a very brutal fight, warring with his opponent, he asked the question, are you not entertained? And it brings to mind this battle we're in today with the Egyptians, their government, the people, and the American producer of the film, the drama Queen Cleopatra. Are you not entertained? That's all this was designed really to do, was entertain. And in this case, I think my perspective is, with all the experts, all the narrators with credentials of Egyptology, Nubian archaeology, authors, they brought in a little history and education. But are you not entertained? No, no. We can't even though there's a war going on in Ukraine or Russia, between Ukraine and Russia, even though we have pedophilias all over the place, this is a battle we're in, just like in the Gladiators. It's a very similar scene from the drama of the Gladiators that we see now with all this controversy around an entertainment piece. None of us can possibly guarantee that everything is totally accurate, other than, here's the funny thing about the history of that region. A lot of the noses were cut off on the statues in the Egyptian land, in the land of Mitzrayim and Kemet, and now the Arab Republic. Why did they cut the noses off? There's an answer to that question. And that's when we can begin to maybe move into fifth dimension, fourth dimension, that we don't have to have this war now. We can really look more at the energy of Venus, the goddess, and Ishtar, the goddess. These goddesses of love and war, political power, are still present today. And that's what we're pointing out tonight. My co-host and I are looking into the energy of this debate that we're seeing and hearing. And let me go to a caller, because we want your comments. We want your feedback as to what do you feel is the path going forward from this war that we're in, this battle, this controversy that we're in, where we can get into fourth, fifth dimension, peace, harmony, and agree that nobody knows the color of Cleopatra, really. You can look at the statues and all the noses that were cut off. Why'd they do that? You can look at the history of Mitzrayim in Hebrew Bible times to Kemet, Black Land, and now Egypt, and now Arab Republic of Egypt, and wonder, what's really going on here is a spiritual battle that we're in. And we hope that our Egyptian brothers and sisters can begin to see that it's not a battle of flesh and blood, but of spiritual principality. So let me open the mic in our Blog Talk Radio Female Solution Studio. And let's hear from our caller in that studio. Naima, your mic is open.
Three, 2, 1, 3, 6, 8. Your mic is open. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Great program so far, and very enlightening. As a history teacher, I just like to say a few things concerning that documentary. Prior to becoming a teacher, before I actually entered college, I was interested in archaeology. Used to just anything I could get my hands on concerning archaeology, I would read it, and from that, I longed to travel to Egypt and other lands and just do excavations and learn about antiquity. But I never really got into that as a career. My career went another way as I progressed on in college. But anyway, I'd like to say this concerning what Viyata was mentioning as war between between the genders. Actually, a tenet of the art of war is divide and conquer. And you have these so-called Arabs over there spewing out this poison. That's what I'm going to call it. And it's what it is. It's just a continuation of warfare, divide and conquer. Because now there's a whole lot that I could talk to you about this subject, because it goes way deeper than even the documentary and what we're talking about on this program. I was telling my friend that this thing is like a diamond that has many facets, and it's so fast, and it's so interactive, so conclusive, and so diabolical, because there's so much deception, so many lies, and I mean just blatant lies. Just like, for instance, these people that are calling themselves Arabs, they're neither Arabs nor Egyptians. These people, when you go to their background and their descendancy, they're Khazars. Nobody's talking about that. That part is to be hidden. It's not for the common people to even know. But you do have people that study and know these things. And so I want to throw that out. I want you to think, listening audience, what you see is not what you get. What you hear is not what you get. Everything that appears a certain way doesn't have to be that way, and isn't that way in this, especially in this day and age. There's so much deception, lies, and all kinds of intrigue and all kind of mess going on. It's a shame. But anyway, when you in school, basically when we got world history, and they mentioned Cleopatra, all they showed Cleopatra was basically as a whore. She was Mark Antony's and Caesar's whore. Okay, they didn't talk about her as really much as being a queen. All right, and that was the history that we had, portrayed by Elizabeth Taylor, as was mentioned earlier by AJ, and so you didn't have protesters there. Here you had this white woman playing the so-called Egyptian queen, but nobody protested them because it was Hollywood. And guess what? Behind that presentation, once again, we go back to the Khazars. But now you probably don't. I guess the average person wouldn't realize that because they don't really know much about Khazars, because there hasn't been a whole lot of talk throughout the years. Khazars have been kind of like a shadow. But yet they're not a shadow. They're involved in everything that's going on. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure that if there's people that's relative, hear me talk and don't like what I'm saying, but who cares? The truth is the truth, and there's a war against truth. And as we were saying earlier, okay, a tenet of the art of war is divide and conquer. So consequently, you're gonna go against truth with falsehood, and you're gonna try to establish that falsehood with false documentation, lies, and innuendos, and all those kind of things. But anyway, I'm gonna shut up because I just wanted to introduce some things. I could go on and on, but I'm not going to. So I hope that what I see may have some kind of impact or some kind of help. Enlightenment or somebody encouragement or something. So with that, I'm done. Thank you.
Well, thank you. That was the voice of Mikhail, and Mikhail's a very close friend of mine, and he's also a baby boomer. So we're getting the baby boomers perspective tonight so far, and we'd love to hear from any younger individuals, humans. I'm not using the B word tonight. It's been totally overused. All we're hearing in the media is B. She's not B enough. She's not. And the actress Adele, her name is Adele, who's playing this role, playing the role of Cleopatra. Her background is mulatto or mixed race, which is part of the craziness about accusing her of not being adequate to play this role, that somehow she's not fit to be Cleopatra because she's not white enough, basically. And her ancestry is mixed race. So it becomes even more ridiculous. That's why we have to bring in the spirits of Venus, Aphrodite, and so much more, because what we're seeing is a spiritual battle. LA, you have any comments so far?
Yeah, well, we need to remind people that Egypt, just like the United States, was a multicultural society. So when you have multicultural, is everybody is up in there. And then if people need to have a visual for identification purposes, somebody in this culture in 2023, Hoda Kotb, who's on the Today Show, she's Egyptian. But she's not the quintessential Egyptian, because once again, Egypt during the time of Cleopatra was a multicultural society.
And as we've done our research, this docudrama has inspired me to do more research. And as I mentioned, I did a blog talk show several weeks ago about Jonathan Cahn's book, The Return of the Gods, which reminded us of the spiritual battle that we're in with goddesses such as Venus and Ishtar. So here's a little piece about Aphrodite or Venus, just to remind us of how the people in that area lived and what their beliefs were, basically. They had a belief that said Aphrodite and Venus and Ishtar. In fact, in the docudrama, the actress mentions as Cleopatra, I am Venus, I am Aphrodite, I am Ishtar. She mentioned these goddesses as part of her persona and her identification. And that's what you see in the description of Aphrodite, Venus, that period, that Roman period. They believed in the presence and power of these Greek and Roman goddesses. Rome's Venus came to symbolize Rome's imperial power. And like her Greek counterpart, Aphrodite, Venus was intimately associated with love and beauty, yet other elements were distinctive to the Roman goddess. So the spirit of Isis, the spirit of Venus, is still with us today. As the last caller mentioned, we are witnessing not just third dimension reality, but we're witnessing divide and conquer spiritual battle going on. That you could present an entertainment, as they said, are you not entertained? A creative work was presented. As on Netflix has thousands of creative works. But I believe the period that we're in, the land of Egypt is going through once again a serious awakening and transition of who they are, identity crisis. Maybe it's even that Americans as well as Egyptians, people all over the planet, we're all going through kind of an identity crisis. In America today, how many people cannot really say what it means to be an American? LA, for you, it says, for you, what does it mean to be an American for you?
All depends on who you talk to.
Exactly. So for you, with your back, tell the people a little bit about maybe your background, where you were brought up and your parents, and then today, how do you feel? Are you an American? Are you a mixed race person? How do you identify with who you are today compared to how you grew up?
All depends on who I'm talking to.
Oh, that too, huh?
Yeah. All depends on who I'm talking to. So it to some people I'm black. To some people I'm an American. Like I say and like for instance, I have a lot of friends that live on different continents, different countries. So when I'm in conversation with them, race doesn't come up. Doesn't come up at all. Color doesn't come up. But here in this country, once again, depending on who I'm talking to, what do they call it? Code switching. So you have to adjust, to the at least I adjust to the person or audience that I'm dealing with.
So
But I
why
travel with a blue passport. So
blue
for
passport?
travel reasons, I'm an American. On the passport it doesn't have any. It has a picture of you, but you're an American, so that's the way they see it.
So why do you think the Egyptians are so focused on Adele is not B enough? Or she's
I
too
don't, I
B.
don't think it's the Egyptians.
Yeah, they're the ones who are arguing. They're the ones who are suing. Okay, here's the current situation. The Egyptian government is suing Netflix because of the portrayal of Cleopatra as a black person. That's how they're putting it. That's why they've overused this word. Why do you think in 2023 they're even bringing this argument?
Well, just my opinion. I don't know all the backstory on that. Out of my travels internationally, the the people that I've run into, because I've been on 3 continents, so in the United States and maybe the UK, I haven't been to Africa yet. Color is part of the culture. That's just the way people identify. Now, in other cultures or continents that I've been in, like I say, race or color never comes up in conversations. Even when you're speaking to a lot of Africans, because they're over 2,500 to 3,000 indigenous languages spoken in Africa. So when it comes to, now this is just my take on the controversy with Cleopatra. I think a couple of things need to occur to get a more accurate picture of who Cleopatra really was. Number one, you need to make a trip to Egypt. And number two, you need to um, get out of your language. And what language did what language did they write about Cleopatra? Because it wasn't English. It wasn't American English. It wasn't British English. So, I mean, what language, what historians are we, what was the original language that was, that recorded about the life and times of Cleopatra? Because when you translate to another language, some things just don't translate. A lot of things get lost in the translation. So not anything on Netflix, at least the docu-series produced by Jada Pinkett Smith. Now, hats off for her for putting it out there. But we're getting, in my opinion, a Western, because she wrote the checks. Okay, the bankroll is. So we're getting in my opinion, an African American woman's version of Cleopatra. That's just my opinion on it.
Okay.
I don't speak Coptic Egyptian. I don't know the languages that Spirit Cleopatra wrote. I can't, like anything written about Cleopatra from an historical Egyptian point of view, written in whatever language that they used in Egypt at that time. I don't know it. I don't speak it. So, like I say, in my opinion, to get a true representation of who she was, regardless of color, you need to first go over there. Go over there, and number two, if you can, learn the language, and then start reading some of the things that were written in their natural language, and then see if you can go from there. Because, like I said, when it comes to languages, some things don't translate to another. I mean, there's some words in any language that don't translate to anything. There's not a word for it in another language. So I'll land my plane there.
Okay, so excellent point, LA. Thank you. Because if you have traveled, you haven't been to Egypt, and I agree, if someone is going to be an expert on Egypt, they definitely should have traveled there. How about at least studied for 40 years Egypt and been made several trips to Egypt in that 40-year period and wrote books about it. That's what we want to discuss. How do you become an expert on Egypt these days? We'll be right back after these messages. Naima Latif, your mic is open. Okay. There's Naima Latif. Where'd she go?
What happens when a group of people are kidnapped from their homes, smuggled away in chains, and held captive in a foreign land where they are tortured, raped, and forced to perform hard labor by the lash of a whip and under the constant threat of death? Slavery, the African American psychic trauma. What happened to the doctors, writers, scientists, builders, educators, and spiritual leaders from Africa's golden age? Who did they really capture and sell into slavery? Are all African Americans suffering from psychic trauma because of a conspiracy to hide their true identities? Do you have psychic trauma? Take the test on page 22 of the book and see. Order it online today at www.naimalatif.com. That's www.naimalatif.com. And get your personally autographed copy of the book, Slavery, the African American Psychic Trauma.
Oh, man, God sent the monthly sun bill today. This sunlight is really expensive, especially during this season. I'll probably have to work overtime to pay it.
Well, you better pay it on time. We don't want the sun to go out and we're sitting up here all day in the dark.
Wouldn't it be terrible if God charged us for sunlight? Well, thank God, the light and heat from the sun is free. So why are we paying such high bills for the energy we use in our homes? Because we don't know how to use solar energy, the free energy from the sun. You can convert your regular home to a solar energy home and save tremendously on your electric bill. Take a look at your electric bill. Wouldn't you like to reduce or possibly even eliminate that cost altogether? Let one of our solar consultants show you how. Call today, 312-849-3456, and schedule a free consultation. That's 312-849-3456.
Is Monday morning a struggle to get out of bed into the swing of things? Well, don't worry, you are not alone. Join us for thought-provoking, stimulating, and mindful conversations on higher learning with Delta Speaks for your Monday morning mindfulness session on Blog Talk Radio, The Female Solution, Mondays, 7:30 until 9 a.m. Be sure and send your ideas, thoughts, comments, and suggestions. Also, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, visit DeltaSpeaks.com
mindfulness.com and send us your info. We'd love to have you. Experience mindfulness moments with the mindfulness/stress relief coach, Zelda Speaks. And thanks for sharing the mindfulness of the day. Stay on purpose, stay empowered, and stay tuned to your next session of mindfulness on Higher Learning with Zelda Speaks. Make it a mindful day. And thanks for listening.
It's time for healing. It is so time for healing. After 3 years of Twilight Zone, COVID, Corona madness, it's time for healing. And this is what's missing from the minds of people who want to debate a entertainment production of Cleopatra. The question becomes, are you entertained yet? Are you not entertained? Because really, that's all it is. When it comes down to a documentary of someone who lived thousands of years ago, it's just entertainment. But we have egos involved, we have pride involved, and we have the Arab Republic of Egypt involved. So the history, again, if you're just joining us, the history of Egypt goes back even beyond, with a spirit of the enchantress of Venus, the goddess, who is a demanding, prostituting seducer. Venus, Ishtar, these are the same names, different cultures. Ishtar had a lover, Tammuz, licentiousness, Ashtoreth, unbridled sexuality, incarnation of pornography, sex, drugs, rock and roll, you name it. Ishtar was that, and drugs. And because of the energy of that goddess, we are still dealing with that. That is a powerful energy from Venus and Ishtar and the enchantress of Ashtar. So the tonight's show is really focusing on the true spirit of Cleopatra. The root of this debate is more spiritual. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, spirits of the darkness, energy of seductress like Venus. And yet, as LA pointed out, depending on who you are, where you are, and who you're listening to, people might want to call you Black, but rarely do people look at me and say, oh, you're a mixed race. They want to call me Black because of my cosmic curls, because of my father, my mother, but I am not Black. That's not my identity. That is how America and even Egypt looks at people. But here, let's look at the word Kemet. That word is not used very often anymore in the land of Egypt. But yet Kemet was the energy of Egypt for many years, right? We didn't know a word called Egypt until the conquerors came in and changed that name. So if you think about the history of this place and what it means to us as Americans, many Americans identify very strongly because they've had a DNA test and they have realized that they actually have DNA or genes that go back to Kemet. There's several people in America who have had tests done to identify them specifically with a tribe in Egypt or in Africa. But the identity crisis is here, where many of us only see ourselves as a color. We only see ourselves as a race, when third and fourth, fifth dimension is an evolution of identity beyond the color of your skin. And so what we're witnessing is entertainment. This is the whole point of me bringing up the gladiators and a movie that was pretty violent and pretty full of lots of entertainment. And the famous words were, "Are you not entertained?" And that is the key in what we're seeing today. Are you not entertained? People are taking this very seriously, and yet all it is entertainment. Because when you look at the full spectrum of history and characters and the mind of Jada Pinkett, the mind of 6 people. Now LA brought up the point that you really can't talk about Egyptian history unless you've been there, right? That was your point, right, LA?
Not only been there, but it also would help if you would know the language that was written about, recorded about Cleopatra.
Right.
Because, like I say, when it comes to languages, some things might not translate to American or British English.
Right. So when you decide to make a movie or a docudrama, what would be your steps if you wanted to make a documentary about something? What would be the first thing you might do to bring that into fruition eventually?
Well, since we're talking about Cleopatra, like we agreed on, number one, fly to Egypt. Number two, what was the indigenous language? Because Cleopatra spoke several languages, but what was the indigenous language that she spoke in? And then what language was it Coptic Egyptian, or what languages what language was the historical records kept way back when? And then try to find historians who could read that language today and then learn from them, go to the libraries of Egypt, recommended by the Egyptian historians in Egypt. And then once I learned at least enough of that language to translate stuff, or hire a professional translator over there, that's what I would do.
Okay. And so you haven't produced a drama yet. And so your steps to produce a movie would be pretty elementary and a novice, right? You'd be a novice at this. Okay, so let's take someone who's got the money and they've got connections. I think the first thing they would do would find the experts so they don't have to work so hard. Let's find the experts in this field. So when I look at, that's why this whole thing seems to be so crazy, because when you look at this documentary, there are experts speaking throughout the documentary, but see, people are not paying attention or acknowledging or making note of the experts. So if you're an expert, let's see, what type of credentials might you have? You wrote a book on it, right? Which means you've done some research, right?
All right, but the experts in this docudrama, they were speaking in English. I didn't hear anything other than English that whole documentary. So maybe I missed something, but in my opinion, to have an authentic, we need to see something that was, people speaking whatever they speak, in that country, they need to show me those experts, because those experts do exist.
Right. So are you not entertained is the question. Again,
well,
nobody.
I wasn't looking at it for entertainment, because I was looking to see if there was anything new about Cleopatra that I didn't know about.
Okay, so I think our questions got answered if we were looking for historical data or information, right?
Yeah, like I said, I was looking at it. Tell me something about Cleopatra that I didn't know.
Exactly, other than Elizabeth Taylor's version, right? Because that's what we grew up with. That was, and that, by the way, I believe that was one of the most expensive movies ever made. But what did we learn other than be entertained? Did you learn anything about that period when we watched Elizabeth Taylor as Cleopatra other than being entertained?
Well, just the whole mythology of Cleopatra, her story, once again told from a Western point of view, is thought provoking. It does have an entertainment element to it. She was, like I said, she was the last pharaoh of
We didn't
Egypt.
know that. I don't think we knew that. As we watched Elizabeth, what year was that movie made?
Ooh, I don't know.
We'll Google that. We'll find
Yeah,
out.
yeah, that's on Wikipedia. But now,
She
I mean,
wasn't
when that movie was made, okay, and Claude made her version of it too. That was a Hollywood production. All right.
exactly entertainment, right? That we were
Right.
entertained totally with
Right.
Elizabeth Taylor and Claudette Colbert. She wasn't even called a pharaoh in that movie.
Yeah.
She was
But
not called a pharaoh. She
yeah.
was called Queen. That was it. And what were we doing? We were admiring the beautiful dresses, the beautiful crowns, the beautiful backgrounds, the environment. We were entertained. Are you not entertained? Okay. So moving fast forward to this time period, we got history, we got facts, and we got people just hating this. That the historical facts are brought out, and we weren't just entertained. That's going back to That's why it keeps coming to my mind. The gladiators. Are you not entertained, people? We cut off heads. We fought. We did what you asked us to do. We created a movie. Are you not entertained? No, you gave us too much history in this part. We want to go back to Elizabeth Taylor, where we were just instead of tickling our mind, our brain, our thoughts, thought provoking. This to me, this docudrama was more thought provoking than Elizabeth Taylor Claudette Colbert version Hollywood that we watched as children. Because we didn't care, really. Did we care?
Right.
We just wanted to be entertained by Hollywood.
Well, we have to remember with many films, at least Hollywood films, the producers, what do they call it? Dramatic license. So maybe about 75%, because we can say the Cleopatra version, I mean, the Elizabeth Taylor version, the Claudette Colbert version of Hollywood was based on the life of Cleopatra, but it wasn't an accurate portrayal of who Cleopatra was. That's where you have to look at most movies. Now, you can even say with the Netflix Jada Pinkett Smith, that's her version. We don't know how much dramatic license she took. That's why I'm saying, for me, Flower, I can't. You basically you got to pick it up from the original language. That's where I look at it.
I'm looking up the year. I'm looking up the year that Cleopatra made, or Elizabeth Taylor, because you know why? I want to know how old I was when that was made, because it says a lot about the fact that you and I are baby boomers. We're in our 60s now. When we watched Elizabeth Taylor and Cleopatra, all we wanted was entertainment, right? And I think especially back during that time, if you grew up in an urban area, okay, that movie was, let's see, no, I don't want to know. Okay, Cleopatra trailer, 1963, June 12th, 1963.
All right, now with Elizabeth Taylor, we have to look at it like this. It was produced in Hollywood, and they have a lot of Hollywood movies then as well as today. A lot of private investors, and the producers are looking at, all right, what star can we put in this movie, cast in this movie, where people will come out and buy tickets so they can get the investors' money back and make a profit.
Absolutely.
So if we look at 1963,
I was
can you
8 years
name?
old.
Yeah, how old were you?
I was 8 years old.
Okay, so looking at it from a producer's point of view, that they have to make money on this film. Who could we cast? Because movie stars are essentially salespeople. So in 1963, name a black actress that could be cast in that movie that enough of the general ticket buying public, which was majority white folks then as well as now, who could they cast? Because it was the internet as we know it. I mean, the internet did exist then, but it wasn't. Everybody didn't have access as they have it today. But who could they cast other than semi-pro? Name a black actress that they can cast. Was Lena Horne a big enough star they can cast back then? Eartha Kitt, was she a big enough star? I don't think they were at that time. Or Dorothy Dandridge.
Right. And another point is, at 8 years old, we didn't care. We just wanted to be entertained. I don't think as an 8-year-old I don't think there were many 8-year-old, especially melanin kids, who wanted a full history of Africa and Egypt, right?
Yeah, but what about our parents? Once again, what dark-skinned star, they could be black or Negro as they were called back then, or Mexican, or because the queen, the star in this movie, she's British. So what black star could come out? Who could they cast to sell that movie?
But they didn't want to do that. My point is, they didn't want a black actress to do that back then in 1963. Okay,
I disagree with you on that one.
You saying, listen, let me ask you a question. Are you saying that in 1963 they believed Cleopatra was a melanin woman?
They could have believed that. All right. I wasn't there, I don't know. But what I'm saying is, with a movie of that kind of a budget, they're thinking they did it then and they do it today. Who could we cast? Who's going to come out who can we cast as the star where people can come out and they'll pay the money so we can recover our money and make a profit? The reason why Tom Cruise or Denzel Washington today or Samuel Jackson today is they're great actors, but they sell tickets. So going back in the time machine in 1963 when this was put out, what black star had that kind of a star power to sell tickets? Okay. Today we got Denzel, because we only have a handful of blacks today that have star. Will Smith. The reason why Will Smith has star power, because he sells tickets, point blank. Hollywood is about money. So when who black or brown in 1963 had the star power equal to Elizabeth Taylor?
Okay, so you make a good point, LA, about the motive and the purpose for casting Elizabeth Taylor as Cleopatra in 1963 when we were like 6, 7, 8 years old, 10 years old. And in our community, I don't even know if we were expecting anything else other than an Elizabeth Taylor. But in looking at it from Hollywood's point of view, like you said, marketing, attraction, were they looking for truth in that movie?
Well, like I say, Hollywood or many movies, when they have like Cleopatra, Ben Franklin, whoever, today they based on, it's not an accurate portrayal. I mean, let's go back in the time machine, 1963, on Sunday nights. You know, let's look at the black actors or actresses that might have been on the Ed Sullivan Show. Okay, Jackie Moms Mabley. Okay, she was on the Ed Sullivan Show. She had a following. Could she be cast as Cleopatra back then in Celtic? I don't think so. Okay, Dorothy Dandridge, did she have the star power back then in the old? I don't think so. Lena Horne, did she have the star power to sell? I can't now. We got a listening audience here. Maybe somebody can call in and bring me up on it or bring us up on it. But what star, black star or Mexican star, back in 1963, who had the selling power of an Elizabeth Taylor? Elizabeth Taylor was hot in 1963.
Okay, you're looking at it from two different perspectives. You're looking at it from Hollywood's perspective, right?
Which is how can we recover this money? Right, they put a lot of money into that film. So who could we cast to make our money back?
Okay, so I see what your point is, and tell me if I'm wrong. You're looking at it in 1963. The only the major perspective or point of view for Hollywood was money making, right?
Exactly. Then as well as now.
Yeah, recovering their profits. And so today, when you have a Jada Pinkett working with 6 people who have the credentials of art and archaeology of ancient Mediterranean classics and author at Hamilton College, Nubian archaeology and Egyptian studies, Arthur Alexandria, the city that changed the world, an Egyptologist, a doctor, a Colleen Egyptologist, author, here's an author of Cleopatra and Egypt. Now, how much study do you think she did to write a book called Cleopatra and Egypt? So I don't even think she had to know the language if she wrote a book like that. She had to just spend some time in that area, in the museums, in the library, just as I did, when I wrote my dad's book. I went all the way because my dad played football in 1949, and he played before that with University they played with the university. I went to Oklahoma. He played with the University of Nevada, and he played Oklahoma in a very important game that they slaughtered the team, and it kind of sealed him as a Negro playing in the NFL that had some power. Okay, so what did I do to write that book? I flew to Oklahoma to go, and I went to the library and I looked at hours worth of newspaper headings about my dad and the teams he played for. So I didn't have to know I'm in America, of course, but I did need to go to that area to write about that part of his history and look at actual newspaper clippings about the events that took place where he was involved. Now let's look at someone who writes a book called Cleopatra and Egypt, Dr. Sally Ann Ashton. What did she have to do? She had to, like you said, she needed to go to Egypt, spend some time in Egypt. It would be interesting to find out how long she spent there. What did she do? Did she go and look? I'm sure she went to the libraries, probably looked at statues. Again, why did they cut off the noses of half the statues in Egypt? That's a lot of motive there of hate to me and craziness. But my point is this. From Hollywood's perspective, 1963, we got to make money. Elizabeth Taylor is the one who's going to bring in the dollars, blah, 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 blah. Now, 2023, we got Netflix. We don't even have to go to the movies anymore. We can just pay a fee, a monthly fee, and be entertained, right? Most people aren't even looking for history and facts and all that on Netflix unless you go to documentaries. Do you ever go to Netflix and say, and search for documentaries? I do it all the time because that's really all I'm interested in. I don't want to be entertained all day and night by Netflix. I personally want documentaries that show me the author of a book called Cleopatra and Egypt, an Egyptologist, 6 narrators. That's my kind of entertainment is documentaries. So we can look at, like you said, the purpose and the motivation for making movies when we were 8 years old versus a documentary made by a woman who wanted to create something, like she said, for her daughters and for other melanin people who now believe that, yes, Cleopatra could have had skin looking like us, right? That's the reason why, that and political reasons, of course, because we now know what's the area, the Arab Republic of Egypt. So who's running the show over there? Let's just be honest. It's not sub-Saharan, and we won't even divide Africa. It's not the Ethiopians. It's not the Nigerians who are running Egypt, or anyone who traveled to Egypt years ago. It's Northerners from the Middle East, Arab. And I might say that the slave trade started with the Arabs. Let's say that. Let's throw that in there, so we understand the spirit of this division and divide and conquer that we're dealing with on a spiritual level, right? So again, I understand your point of view. Hollywood in 1963, they need to make money. They didn't care about the historical facts, whether she was light skinned, dark skinned, what. They just wanted to make a movie about this popular piece character, Cleopatra. Let's get the best woman in there, Elizabeth Taylor, and then let's get back our money, right? Refund, get all our money back. Today, though, look at what we're dealing with today in terms of entertainment. This is what my point is. Are you not entertained? That's all this is. And yet people are dividing and conquering over Jada Pickett's creative work to present this woman as something that she could possibly have looked like. The person who played the part of Cleopatra is of mixed race. Her mother in Ptolemy dynasty, from the beginning of that dynasty, the great, starting that Cleopatra the first, second, third, fourth, fifth. We don't know who those people were really. It's all entertainment. And you can look at all the documents in the world. But when I see statues with their noses cut off in Egypt, something's going on there. Energy of Venus, Aphrodite, all these divide and conquer spirits are working their way. And now we see Arab Republic of Egypt. We got to go to a break. But when we come back, we want to just summarize all this. We're in the last half hour, and we want to summarize all this and get back to, I have Ralph Smart's going to join me for a little bit to help us focus on what's really important in 2023 after 3 years of Twilight Zone. Unity is what's important, and that's what we want to focus on in the next half hour. Can we come together, global family, people of the pawns that we have become in many instances? Can we come together in unity and see the spiritual energy that's working its way through our midst to bring division? Okay, Naima Latif, your mic is open, and we're going to go to our last commercial break.
Tune in to Global Solutions with Dr. Debbie Green on Thursdays at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time and 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear great topics and stories on grief and turn it into victory. Join Dr. Debbie Green to listen to stories of triumph and learn how to overcome. You are not alone in your life, and there is hope in the darkest hour. This is your time to learn strategies and solutions to improve your life. It's your time. So join Dr. Debbie Green with Soulful Solutions and call in on Thursday at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time and 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at 515-605-9325 with comments and questions. Look to hear from you real soon.
And I'm Reverend Rosemary. Join us every second Saturday of the month, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Central Time, here on the Female Solutions Global Radio TV show for the Neighborship of Joy. We'll have powerful conversations inviting women to walk in the light. So call in 515-605-9325 and press 1 to speak to the host. You can also join us live on the Female Solution Facebook page and YouTube channel. We'll see you on the second Saturday on the Neighborship of Joy.
Have you ever dreamed of going to exotic places, meeting fascinating people, enjoying uplifting music, and spending nights in a luxurious hotel? Do you look forward to a relaxing vacation where you can walk along the beach or sit in a quiet park and enjoy the sunset or sunrise? Whether you're flying around the world or driving across the country, we will share travel tips that will help you stay safe while you enjoy the journey. Join me every third Saturday of the month, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, and move around with Deborah here on the Female Solutions Show. Call in and comment 515-605-9325 and press 1 to speak.
And we are back. Thank you for being here with us as we look into the true spirit of Cleopatra, who was not only the queen of Egypt, but the pharaoh of Egypt. And we didn't learn that when we were watching Elizabeth Taylor in her glory and her amazing performance in 1963. We actually looked it up. 1963, I was 8 years old. And I think my co-host today, LA, was close to 8 years old. So our first introduction as children, as Americans, let's just say as Americans, to this queen who occupied the land of Egypt in Africa, which is somewhat denied today that even Egypt is part of Africa. It's more, it's the Middle East, whatever. We are in a season of divide and conquer. The spirit of Cleopatra, which was brought out in this documentary, Netflix documentary that is so hated these days. It was brought out, number one, that she was a pharaoh. I didn't know that when I watched Elizabeth Taylor. All I knew was Hollywood gave us this great movie. And it brought out, number two, that she was Venus. She was performing personality, she was embodying the spirit of Venus, Ishtar, which is a enchantress spirit, demanding spirit, war and love, sex spirit, a seductress, unbridled sexuality, pornography, sex, drugs, all of that, rock and roll, you put it in there. This was the embodiment of Cleopatra and is today the embodiment of Cleopatra. If you study the history of this woman and her seven, from Alexander the Great to the seventh Cleopatra, in between there, we don't know who the last pharaoh or queen was, her mother was, and her grandmother. That leaves open that this is just entertainment. And to argue about whether the actress who plays it was dark enough or Egyptian enough or Greek enough or whatever is ridiculous in my mind, because the history of Cleopatra is not certain when your mother and grandmother are not known. There was all kinds of incest in this dynasty, in this ancestry, sister's brother. And that was another thing that was brought out in this recent docudrama. Lots of incest. Who knew that? I didn't know that back in the 1963, nor did I care at 8 years old. We just wanted to be entertained. Again, gladiator mind says, are you not entertained? Why aren't you entertained? Because the pride, the ego, and the divide and conquer spirit of Cleopatra is so strong in that land that we're missing the point of the fifth dimension reality that we need to be looking at, where we find peace and no war. I'm, for one, am just so sick of wars in the land of Earth. And yet we are not going to end the wars if we individually do not look to a fourth, fifth dimension reality of peace. So I want to share with you, LA, did you have any other comments you wanted to make?
Not at this point, no.
Okay. I found Ralph Smart, one of my favorite YouTubers, has his recent YouTube. Ralph Smart, I don't own the rights to his video, but I'm going to play a little bit of it so that you see the wisdom of coming out of this third dimension of men and women at war and into the fifth dimension. This is a long video, but I'm not going to play the whole thing. I want you to just hear the wisdom that he brings about becoming aware of the fifth dimension instead of looking at a history of a person that is totally uncertain when you don't know who her mother and grandmother were. I'm sorry, but that's an important piece of this puzzle and of this argument. If you're going to claim that a person was definitely not colored or not dark or of Africa, and you don't know who her mother and grandmother were, sorry, you're not going to convince me that she was all Greek and all Roman or all whatever. That's a very important piece that's missing. There were concubines everywhere in that period of time, and as much as people who say, oh, it was a pure race and Cleopatra was pure and there was no mixture of any other, the race, the genes, all of that, it's just entertainment at this point. We don't know. And if they kept such good records, where's her mother and grandmother? I want to know who her grandmother and mother are. So I want to just share with you some wisdom from my brother Ralph Smart about fifth dimension reality. This is so important if you want to move forward out of the divide and conquer mentality that we've been in for way too long. It's time for us to examine, experience, or at least consider the fifth dimension as our new reality. Otherwise, we'll continue in the war, dividing and conquering, and we will see more death and destruction. So let me share with you my favorite YouTuber, Ralph Smart, and just let you hear some of his words of wisdom. Okay, let's go here. Ralph Smart.
Much love to you, beautiful deep divers. Another beautiful day. Listen, can you hear that? There's no place I'd rather be than with the birds, bees, leaves, and trees. We got birds singing, 100-degree temperature. We got butterflies floating around. We got the cat down the road sunbathing. It's a beautiful, hot, that's an understatement, hot, sunny day. Okay, I woke up like this, all magical and fly deep divers, just That was beautiful. Let's breathe, deep divers. Let's go. Woo! Breathing in that good ass prana, baby. What are we doing, deep divers, every single day? Raising the frequency. What else? Raising the vibration. Take that, take that, take that. Good ass energy I'm sending you. Peace. Infinite waters, diving deep once again. Beautiful deep divers, we are out here in the heart of nature. Another new, beautiful, sunny day. And I hope you're taking care of yourself, deep divers. Look at me right now as if I'm FaceTiming you, deep divers. Look, if you are watching this video, this is your confirmation that everything is gonna begin to shift in your favor. I said, this is your confirmation that everything is gonna begin to shift in your favor. If you're ready, just say thank you. I want everybody to hit that like button right now if you support the real. Hit that like button right now and share this with someone if you support the real, because we got a whole lot to talk about. So someone actually sent me a beautiful message under one of my videos, Deep Divers. They're like, Ralph, I'm like, yes. They're like, I love your videos, but lately I see you haven't really been talking about the new earth and the fifth dimension and how we're doing energetically on the planetary shift as a collective. That's a great question. We got a whole lot to talk about. Let me repeat that. They said, Ralph, I love your videos, but I haven't seen you lately talking about the new earth and the fifth dimension and how we're doing energetically on the planetary shift as a collective. Please make a video on this. So this video is entitled, The Light is Here. The fifth dimension is already here. How you get there. Only the 1% will get there. We got a whole lot to talk about. Like I told you, deep divers, there are levels to this. And each one of us are born into the 3D, the third dimension. But what if I told you, you have the fifth dimension, and that's the place you want to be at because that's the new earth. And I'm going to show you how to get there, what we can all do to make sure we secure our place there. The cat down the road is already there, chillaxing. Deep divers, and we ain't even had breakfast yet. Can I get a hello there? In the words of Ralph Smart, we live in a world so fake, the truth actually scares people. What? Slow motion this side. It's starting to feel like that old Infinite Waters again. I said, we live in a world so fake, the truth actually scares people. In the 3D, it's all about being fake. It's all about being inauthentic. It's all about living through a person's mask. In the 3D, you are a person. In the fifth dimension, you are a being. In the 3D, you are a human doing in a hurry to get nowhere fast, trapped, like Bob Marley said, in the concrete jungle. In the fifth dimension, you're in nature, raising the frequency. In the fifth dimension, you're chillaxing, going hiking, or you're by the beach, or you're by a chestnut tree. Raising the frequency, doing a little samba, baby. The air is so pure out here in the fifth dimension. I'm already here, and only 1% are going to make it here as well. You see, when you remind yourself that there are levels to this, and not everyone can go. You see, the ancients knew that many are called, few are chosen. Many are called, few are chosen. And not everyone's going to make it to the new earth, the fifth dimension, where love reigns supreme. No, a lot of people are going to be trapped in the 3D. Media every single day, TikTok distractions, a low frequency, a low vibration, bad food, toxic energy. That's what's going to happen to a lot of people on this planet. So the light has come. The light has come. The fifth dimension is already here. It's already been here. Okay, how you get there? Only the 1% will get there. You see, it's not for everyone to experience higher frequencies and higher vibrations. You know why? Because you have to match that frequency and that vibration. a lot of people for the longest time, the last few thousand years on this planet, have been living through the ego. Humanity has been living through the ego. Humanity has thought that the whole world is its possession, right? The whole world is in its possession. I own land. The Native Americans knew that you can't own land. How can you own a piece of land, deep divers? I mean, it's not like you can take it with you when you leave here. The ancients knew that we are, like my grandma would say, passing strangers, and we owe nothing. And that's the reason why the ancients, they were realizing we are a part of an ecosystem, ecosystem. So the fifth dimension, to get there, you have to start realizing we are all connected. It's one humanity, and we are a part of an ecosystem. What we do to Gaia, we're actually doing to ourselves. They're destroying the rainforest every single day, and that's the reason why a lot of humanity is in bondage, because they doesn't realize what you're doing to the rainforest, you're actually doing to humanity itself. So how do we get to the fifth dimension? Stop operating on the fear frequency. That's the lowest frequency. That's 100 hertz. You want to start vibrating at the 500 hertz frequency. That's the love frequency. I told you. Listen to music of a high frequency, of a high vibration. Love frequency is 528 hertz. I've got a whole video on the love frequency, over 6 million views.
So I'm going to stop my beautiful brother, Ralph Smart. I don't own the rights to his video, but he should be listened to because he brings much wisdom to this conversation that we're having with our Egyptian brothers and sisters over across the waters, and they're fighting and battling, and they want to own the land. And if you heard Ralph said, in the third dimension, people want to own the land. Not only does the Arab Republic of Egypt want to own the land of Egypt, they want to control and own the history of Egypt. And they haven't been there that long. I'm sorry. But when you go back to the Bible, as I said earlier, the Bible started with Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim was the land that is now occupied by the Arabs. And Mitzrayim was a land of pharaohs and Moses and dark-skinned people and all kinds of people, mixture of diverse colors and languages probably. And then we turn to Kemet, from Mitzrayim to Kemet. We haven't heard that mentioned, but Kemet means black land. Who owns that black land of Kemet? Who owns it? Let me think. It's owned by the creator. Gaia owns that land. That land belongs to the people to take care of, to be good stewards of the land. The history belongs to who? The history belongs to every human being on this planet Earth, because there are many people in America even who had ancestors that go back to Egypt and Kemet. So let's keep in mind, Kemet means black land, black people, but it was changed to Egypt. Another language, another culture comes in, conquer, 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 move, 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 people moving all over the place. And Cleopatra, number 7, after the long reign of Alexander the Great, beginning Ptolemy 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we don't know who Cleopatra's mother and grandmother are after all the conversation, after all the research, after all the documentation. And I, for one, think having 6 people who have written books, who have studied, who are Egyptologists, who have are teaching in universities, I think that's enough for me when I'm watching a docudrama on Netflix to take that information as valid, to take it with a grain of salt, because nothing's perfect, and to say good entertainment and good historical facts. So I pray that this has been helpful for you to move out of a little bit out of the third dimension of war, divide and conquer, and men and women at war. But this is the spirit of Venus, Ishtar, and more. The divide and conquer, gender confusion, it all goes along with the season we're in, that we are transitioning from the third dimension of confusion, war, et cetera, to a period, fourth, fifth dimension of peace and no war. Ooh, I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited. I hope you are. And let's just look at Netflix as pure entertainment. Are you not entertained? Consider the Gladiator movie. Are you not entertained? Entertainment these days goes from cutting off people's heads with blood and violence and gore to romance and beauty. I highly recommend the Queen Charlotte, by the way. It was a beautiful movie. And go to the movies if you have to. But if you're going to stay at home, Netflix, pure entertainment. Let's just keep it there. And don't worry about who owns the land or whatever. This battle will end soon, we hope. But in the meantime, they're going to court and they want to battle. But in the meantime, tomorrow, we want you to remind you to join us on blogtalkradio.com with Zelda, our Monday morning mindfulness host.
90
She will
seconds.
be celebrating the ancestors, elders, and veterans tomorrow for Memorial Day. Thank you so much for being here with me tonight. And I hope you continue to have a beautiful holiday. Stay in the spirit of fourth dimension love, peace, and joy. Mwah. Love you. Have a great week and enjoy. Be safe out there, please. Be safe. And let's say
60 seconds.
goodbye to our global family.
We've come to the end of our show today, but you can hear every show in the archives at www.blogtalkradio.com/the-female-solution.
And my thanks to LA for joining me this evening. LA, hope you have a beautiful week and stay in peace.
Leave your comments about today's show.
And
You
joy.
can always reach me on my website at
10
www.naimalatif.com.
seconds.
That's www.naimalatif.com. Watch our TV shows, listen to our radio shows, order our books, and be sure to get your copy of the book, The Female Solution. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussion. And to our global family listening from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, sheshe.
Sheshe.
India, zanyaba.
Zanyaba.
Japan, arigato.
Arigato.
Korea, kamsamnida.
Kamsamida.
Russia, spasiba.
Spasiba.
Germany, danke.
Donkey.
Poland, jonkunyo.
Jonkinyo.
France, merci.
Merci beaucoup.
Spain, gracias.
Gracias.
Italy, grazie.
Grazie.
Egypt, shukran.
Shukran.
Ghana, medasi.
Madasi.
Nigeria, eshe.
Eshe.
South Africa, Niabonga.
Niabonga.
Senegal, get it.
Get it.
Kenya, asante.
Asante.
Israel, toda.
Toda Rabba.
Pakistan, shukriya.
Shukriyan.
Afghanistan, tashakur.
Tashakur.
Saudi Arabia, shukran.
Shukran.
Assalamu alaikum wa
Assalamu
rahmatullahi
alaikum.
wa barakatuh. Thank you. And may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessings.
And I want to say to all my
Thank you for using
yogi
Blog Talk
friends
Radio.
out there, namaste and sat nam. And I'm going to end this YouTube video with my tiny house village reminder to go tiny, go small. And let me see, I want to play my ending music for you. Here we go. Namaste and Sat Nam.